kind go ahead and get started. Eventually, I will share my screen where we'll have the slides
Mhm.
and a lot of great things to go over. But for those that don't necessarily know me yet, my name is Scott Rather, and I work at Scott Air Force Base. So I am officially Scott from Scott, where I work with job search strategy, not just for the transitioning military member, but also for the military spouses. And whenever I do an event for the military spouse, I try to do it online. So that way we can have the wonderful partners and resources that are available throughout the country join us to share the guidance that they have and the programs that they offer. That's obviously going to save you a lot of money as you progress in your endeavors, in your career, in your profession. Uh, I've been doing this workshop now for a couple of years. I do have another one that is also recorded. It's on my YouTube channel that you can look at. I'll drop in the link for that a little bit later. It also has a 2 3-hour LinkedIn workshops, a resume writing workshop, and a federal employment workshop. So as we go through the A to Z of a job search, if you want more information and more guidance, those videos are there for you to obviously watch. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen, and we got little things that we're going to go over, and then we're going to jump into the resources. And whoever's here that has those resources, you'll be able to go ahead and speak up. And then, as I had mentioned earlier, we will have different entities dropping in. And when that happens, we'll kind of hit pause with whatever we're discussing and then go ahead and allow them to take the floor. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Because I'm using both monitors. I'm like wondering like, what screen am I going to share? So hopefully if I slide this over, you can then see the slides that we're going to be using. Are we able to see that at all? Can anybody?
Not yet.
Okay, what am I doing wrong? Screen 2, share. Now we're a little bit better.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome, got it. And then on my third monitor, I have the chat so I can kind of pay attention to it. And then we're gonna go ahead and let's get started. I think. All right. So first thing that we're gonna look at, and this came from Blue Star Families, and while I'm assuming that none of the statistics are overly surprising to you. However, the unemployment rate for the military spouse is higher than any other demographic that we face. And there's a lot of different reasons that go behind that. And I'm sure Casey, who's with us, has some insight into maybe why that might be. But one of the things that I see as far as the barrier to employment for a military spouse is actually retention for our military members. Of course, the idea is we want to keep them in service. However, there comes a point in time where a decision has to be made. The spouse has put their career on the background so the member can focus on their career. And as a result, it could be good or it could be bad. And sometimes it's kind of like, hey, I think we need to separate from the military so that way we could have a dual income because of the deployments and everything that else is going on, childcare being so expensive, etc. But bottom line is these partners that we have, these resources that are available to us, we really need to take advantage of so that way we can continue to support and serve our country while at the same time the military spouse can have the career that they want and they deserve. As you look at these stats, is there anything really that kind of stands out to you all? Once again, we're in an open forum, we're in a safe space. And what I love when doing a workshop is when we have conversation. So based off of the slide that we're looking at now, does anybody have any comments on this, or does any of it resonate with you as potentially a job seeker? And if we have nothing, that's totally fine. Okay, we'll move on. So really what we need to do is we need to think about how are we going to get this process started? And the first thing that I want you to do is not only just clean up your social network, but also focus your social network on looking for employment, pursuing a new career. What are your goals and ambitions as it relates to your profession? Start to put the word out there, whether it's on Facebook or on Instagram or on LinkedIn, that you're in the process of looking for work. It could be the coach of your child's soccer team knows about a job opportunity. It could be a parent that's, you met through school that knows about a job opportunity. But bottom line is they don't know what you're necessarily seeking unless you start to put that out there for them to see. And then, of course, if there's anything that could be negative in highlighting your past, you probably want to lock that down and make it a little bit dismissive, and then build upon what it is that you're trying to pursue in the future. This also then goes with rekindling and growing your network. And this is another reason that I really love to do this event virtually, because we're connecting with military spouses and other professionals that are throughout the country. A lot of these individuals know about opportunities. So you need to grow your network. And we're going to talk about LinkedIn later this afternoon, but also for those that have kind of like fallen in the back part of what you're doing in a job search, we need to rekindle those relationships. And then I want you to go ahead and make a list. That list can be your work history. It could be any type of volunteerism that you might have, projects that you've worked on, your accomplishments, your formal education, certifications, specialized training, or even ongoing learning, whether it's through Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning. Make notes of all those different types of things, even before you start the process of formally putting together your resume. You need to define your skills and how they translate into the position that you are ideally pursuing. Next, set obtainable goals. It's one thing to say, I'm going to have 4 interviews this week, when we know that that's out of our control. But an obtainable goal might be, every day I'm going to connect with 5 different people on LinkedIn. Once a week, I'm going to take a course that aligns with the direction I want to go next in my career. Every day I'm going to do this or that or the other, right? The bottom line is we want to make sure that the goals that we set are obtainable, because then once we reach them, it's going to give us the ambition to keep pressing forward as we advance and we look for employment. I think a lot of times when people are looking for jobs, the mistake that they make is they spend too much time looking for a job, and they spend less time growing their network, building community, continuing to learn, and instead they get bogged down and they feel rejected because they can't find a position, or they're getting ghosted by a recruiter. So we need to find a way to blend the positive into the job search process, so that way we can ultimately find success and feel motivated to keep pressing forward when the negative attributes tend to come our direction. This goes back into that sort of continued learning. If we look at it, different organizations, which I'll probably talk about a little bit later, you have free access to Coursera. As a military spouse, you have one free year premium of LinkedIn, which then gives you access to LinkedIn Learning. So there's a lot of avenues for you to get that continued learning that you need to advance in your career. And then finally, step out of your comfort zone. I have to say, granted, I'm recording this, so if you're watching this via video at a later time, you are stepping out of your comfort zone. If you're with us today, you're definitely stepping out of your comfort zone and just taking the time to learn, advance, and grow. It's extremely important wherever you're located. If there are events available, and Rachel just kind of mentioned, some events that she has coming up, learn more about them and say, you know what, this is difficult for me, but I'm going to do it. I know in the St. Louis area, we have the Vet Work, which is every second Tuesday of the month. And while it's called the Vet Work, it's also open to military spouses. In the San Antonio area, there's the Key. I know Nashville has one, and mainly every major metropolitan area will have some sort of networking event. But the idea is you need to step out and you need to attend those, because when you are putting yourself in front of other people, you're more likely to get recognized and offer opportunities. Go back to that real quick. Do we have any questions on how to get started or any comments? I'll take that as no.
Scott, I'm sorry,
Yes.
it's Rachel.
Yes.
Hey, I was just curious, where are all of our attendees on this call today? Are they all around the Midwest? Are we out of state? I was just curious.
I'm glad you brought that up. So maybe within the chat box, if everybody could put where they're from, and also eventually as we're talking, drop in your LinkedIn URL, so that way we can all connect with each other as well. So thank you, Rachel.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, Glenda, you're moving. Okay. Will you come back to Scott again for the third time?
No,
No. Okay.
no. Greg's gonna get to be an ROTC detachment commander. So this is the swan song.
Okay. All right, so as others see this, they can definitely drop in where they're at. Of course, Casey, which is going to take us to our next area. So let's go ahead and jump on over to that. So as you can see, Casey, you are like first on the slide, and it wasn't set up that way. It's always been that way. So do you want to go ahead and take the mic and explain your organization and how you can support the attendees or anybody else watching in the future?
Of course. Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate you having me on the call. I'm glad to be here and talk a little bit about the program that I work with, which is the Military Spouse Employment Partnership. But of course, I can't talk about the Military Spouse Employment Partnership without talking about SECO, the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities Organization. This is a DoD established program. It's a virtual program, and it's designed to complement the face-to-face services that are offered by local military installations like what we have here with Scott Air Force Base. The goal of our SECO program is to provide no-cost education and career resources to help military spouses build a meaningful career, despite some of the unique challenges that military life can present. And I can definitely relate to that. I'm a military spouse myself. I've used some of the SECO resources personally before I was working with the organization. So I can definitely say they're here to support those military spouses that are looking for career opportunities. The program offers career exploration, education, training and licensing support, and employment readiness resources. And military spouses can access those via the online platform, which is myseco.military1source.mil. Or they can actually request an appointment with a SECO career coach. SECO career coaches are there to help spouses navigate resources to their specific tailored situation. Spouses can request an appointment with a SECO career coach by calling Military OneSource, by contacting the live chat function on the Military OneSource website, which is militaryonesource.mil, or they can use secure messaging via the Military OneSource website. And SECO career coaches offer a variety of different coaching packages designed, again, to help spouses kind of navigate some of the resources that are available to them. So it's everything from clarifying their career goals, on-demand resume review. They can assist you with preparing and practicing for an interview. They can help you navigate the job search portal, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And then they can also help with navigating education resources. So applying to things like the MyCAA program grant, looking at some of the free education resources that Scott mentioned earlier, like Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, FlexJobs, things like that. So SECO career coaches can kind of help you navigate, access, and utilize those resources efficiently in coaching sessions. And you can have a lifelong connection with your SECO career coach. There's no limit on how many sessions you can have or how frequently you can talk to them. So they're there to provide that support, again, to complement what you're receiving already at the installation level. And one component of the SECO program specifically is the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, which is what I work for directly. This is a career partnership that is designed to help connect that career-ready military spouse with over 700 partner organizations that have committed to recruit, hire, promote, and retain military spouse talent. So we work to try to get those employer partners to provide those jobs, make them available to military spouses. One of the first slides that Scott shared showed that 79% of military spouses feel that their military spouse status impacts them negatively when it comes to the job search. So the MSEP program, or this partnership, is designed to help you connect with companies that don't see that military spouse status as being a negative thing. They've made that commitment already to work with and to help the military spouse community. So far, we have more than 700 partners. It's a little actually over 750. And since our partner's inception in 2011, we've hired more than 275,000 military spouses, and we're keeping that number going as much as possible. We do have the MSEP job search portal, which you can find again via the MySECO webpage. So myseco.militaryonesource.mil. I'll drop it in the chat once I'm done with my information. And you can log in as a military spouse with your DS logon, and you can search exclusively from job opportunities with these MSEP partners. So with partners that have, again, committed to hire military spouses regardless of their status and regardless of the challenges that military life might place on their lifestyle. Spouses can also search for jobs that are hot jobs or immediate hire positions. They can filter by location, or they can filter jobs as telework or remote. So if you're looking for something specifically in a remote capacity, you can filter for jobs exclusively that offer that. We also encourage spouses to use our Job Search Navigator service, which sort of connects our SECO resources with our MSEP partnership. So the Job Search Navigator service is something that a spouse can request through their SECO career coach. And it's where we have a service that will essentially curate a list of 10 to 12 jobs that match what you're looking for in terms of your career, trajectory. So this SECO career coach will kind of help that job search navigator look at your resume, look at the interests and the goals that you have career-wise, and come up with a list of 10 to 12 jobs from our MSEP partnership. So they're from our MSEP employers. And then they'll help provide you with a strong employment lead. So if you follow up with your career coach and you say, yep, I applied to these 10 positions, they'll help connect you with the organization that's hiring. So just to provide a little bit of a job lead, so you don't feel like you're just sort of tossing your application into the online abyss, which I know sometimes the job search can feel, when you apply to a lot of positions. So the reason this Job Search Navigator service exists is because so many spouses have expressed the job search burnout, which I know as a spouse, I've felt that, where you just feel like you're applying to hundreds and hundreds of jobs. It's designed to help you apply for jobs that are specifically related to your career goals, your career trajectory, and then again, to help provide you with that strong job lead to hopefully increase chances of a successful job application. But overall, the shared goal of the Military Spouse Employment Partnership and of SECO, the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities Program, is to ensure that military spouses have the opportunity and the connection that they need to have a satisfying career that's commensurate with their education and experience level. So I'll drop some links in the chat. I already dropped my flyer for the General SECO program, but I'll go ahead and drop the myseco.militaryOneSource.mil link, as well as the MSEP link. And then of course I went ahead and provided our information on LinkedIn. We have a military spouse LinkedIn group that you can connect with our partners directly on LinkedIn if you prefer to do so. And so we'd love to connect with you. I'd love to share these resources. Again, we work in tandem with these installations to help provide career and education support. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me personally or via our LinkedIn group. And I'm happy to help provide any additional information. Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate the time.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And then also, now are you guys in partnership with the fellowship program as well?
So the Military Spouse Career Accelerator Pilot, is that the program that you're speaking about?
Yeah, where it's the internship and $18 an hour is the key.
Yes, so we help to advertise that program, but the program is DoD funded and it's actually facilitated through Hiring Our Heroes. But I can drop a link to it in the chat as well. I think it's an amazing program. Essentially for the military spouses on the call, it is a 12-week fellowship program where you can apply to the fellowship. And then we have employers that can search through your resume, and if you're a good fit, they will bring you on as a fellow, and you're paid during the fellowship process. You're paid through the Department of Defense. So I know a lot of times we need some help getting that connection to an employer, but we don't necessarily want to take an unpaid internship, or we can't afford to necessarily volunteer. MSCAP, or the Military Spouse Career Accelerator Pilot Program, is designed to help you have a wage while you're completing the fellowship. The pilot program started in 2023. So last year was the first full year of the program. There were about 400 military spouses that participated, so that became fellows. And there was an 85% conversion rate among those fellows. So 85% of them went from being fellows to full-time employees with the companies that they were fellows with. And Hiring Our Heroes does offer networking opportunities as well as career connections through the fellowship. So they do provide professional development, networking opportunities, things like that. So in addition to having that fellowship experience with the company, you're also receiving some professional development resources as well. And I can go ahead, Scott, and drop those in the chat too, just a link about the information for the program, the press release, and then I'll drop the link to apply if anybody on the call may be interested in applying.
That's awesome. Yes, I just put in the slides that you all had sent me before. With the contact information for Illinois, Missouri, the individual has moved on, but you also have just sort of a generic email address for people to, if they're interested, but at least the slides will kind of give you an overview of what the program is about. But it's amazing. So if you are looking to maybe switch industry, career pivot, start back to work again, this is an amazing way to get back into the workforce.
Definitely. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. We can also get you in touch, of course, with Hiring Our Heroes for that program specifically. But any questions about SECO or MSEP, please feel free to let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Casey.
Thank you.
So a special guest just logged in, and as you can see, her company logo is right there. So Leslie, I'm going to put you on the spot right away, since you're kind of like next in line anyway to present.
Hey, that's great timing. Thanks so much, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity to join you.
Thank you.
So my name's Leslie Coffey. I'm the VP of Engagement of ACP. And what we do is we help you to figure out what you want to do and how to get there. Just the tool we use is customized mentorship. So whether you're looking to go into marketing, Scott, right now while we're live, we're actually with the director of marketing for the WWE, who's a mentor in our program. Yeah, I could imagine learning from them. Or if you wanted to go into HR or open up your own business, regardless of what path interests you, then we will pair you with a mentor that has years of experience in that path season 2 ahead of you, can guide you along the way for a year. So our program is one-to-one customized mentorship. So one mentor to one spouse. We request you meet at least 1 hour a month, but everybody's journey is unique. What they're working on is unique. I see you open up the website there. Thanks so much, Scott. Happy to answer any questions.
I'm kind of wondering if they even know what question to ask. So as you can see, I opened up the website. And as a spouse, you would go ahead and you would fill out the application as a military spouse. And correct me when I kind of go off path. Essentially what'll happen is once you fill out ideally what you want to do next in your career, an ACP, what do you guys call yourself? Career coach, maybe? Connects
Well,
with you
the
guys?
point of contact, the official title is Operations Associate, but your ACP point of contact, they're going to be in touch with you within a day. They're going to get you on the phone because our process to go about finding a mentor is actually, there's no AI involved, no Match.com. It's a person, 30% of which are military spouses as well. And they go on the hunt for a great fit mentor. But it all starts with, of course, 1, as Scott said, the application, and then 2, the phone call. So it's really a human getting to know you, your goals, your interests. We even ask you for your hobbies. And then we take all of that into account. And depending on what you're interested in, when we find who we think would be a great mentor, we present them to you, like their background and bio. And you let us know, yes, I'd like to work with this person, or you kind of missed the mark, please keep looking. Regardless of either way, we're there to support you. I actually am a spouse myself. I came through 5.5 years ago when we first launched for spouses. And the result of my mentorship was a 67% increase in pay. So if it can work for me, it can work for you.
Absolutely. And then as you can see here, we're looking at some of the statistics as to how they perceive the program and how the program has worked. But I mean, I hands down 100% believe that once again, if we're combining all these different resources, you're ultimately going to find success. Rachel, I know you came on camera. Does that mean you have a question?
No, but actually I just want to say hi to Leslie.
Oh.
Because I've watched her grow over the years, and just to, add a girl to the program, it's a great program, and with a great CEO, and I probably should be a mentor on here and also get mentoring. And I'm also doing my own mentoring and just taught a class last fall on the social cognitive career theory. And it deals a lot with these statistics that she has on the website. There's truth in mentorship, and there's different levels of mentors. You have near peers, which are spouses that are around those ages you are, or timelines possibly going through what you're going through. They're very important to have. And then there's those that are possibly silent mentors way above you, that you might not know, but you're watching them navigate this journey. But anyway, thanks for all that you do, Leslie. It's a really important
See you,
space.
Rachel.
Yeah, good to see you too, and congratulations on all the success.
Thank you. Thank you. Scott, I'm going to drop this link here, but it might be beneficial for spouses to see where their mentors could come from. If you were to scroll at the top of the screen for me on the actual, just the home page, the ACP logo. And we scroll down to the bottom, you'll see some company logos going across the bottom, and there will be a tab for view all. Oh, there it is. Yeah, the view all.
All we got? Amazing.
And this is where the vast majority of our mentors come from. So, they're in the career path that you're looking to get into. But I'll tell you, we had a spouse, Scott, that wanted to be a zoologist, and we found her a mentor. We had somebody that actually just had a spouse get into her PhD program with Help for Mentors. So don't think it has to be, you know, corporate. Absolutely not. It's really customized based off of your path and your specific journey. But this is just to give you an idea where most of our mentors come from. There are some that are civil servants, social workers, academia, healthcare, small business owners, congressmen, astronauts, like you name it.
That's so great. And the other thing too is that what I've always found fascinating is most of your mentors have never even served before. They just want to give back to the community, which I think is spectacular. Glenda,
Yes, about 65% haven't served. This is their way to give back.
yeah. Glenda, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to just encourage anybody who doesn't have one of these mentors yet to get one. I signed up last fall. I kind of thought, well, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to look for a job, I don't think. But I was like, you know, I got nothing to lose because I'm just sitting around here looking at LinkedIn all day. So I signed up, and, you know, my mentor has been so helpful just from the beginning to the end. Super neutral, you know, they're not like your spouse that's like, yeah, this sucks. They take a more professional approach to go, okay, what can we do? Tell me about yourself. What are your goals? You know, what salary would you feel great about? You know, just like these nice, neutral, thoughtful questions. And so I found it invaluable. You know, I'm in the job search process still, and I visit with my mentor about every 3 to 4 weeks, depending on what's going on, and it's really been great. So, and Leslie, I also wanted to say I heard you on this Working Spouse Club podcast, so that was great for doing that.
A little bit of language on that one. We were pretty raw.
Oh,
That's
good.
the best.
I have a real question, for me, to determine whether or not you want to be a mentee or a mentor. What if you feel like you could be both? Do
Yeah,
you
for
apply
sure.
for both? Do you have people apply for both? How does that work? What's your
Me
recommendation?
too. It's also based on the individual. So for example, one spouse who's also a veteran, she recently applied, but she started with the protege side of the house to get a feel for it, and then is going to move forward as a mentor. So it's really dependent upon what interests you.
Okay, thank you.
Like if you're not looking to pivot or anything soon and you'd rather just give back at first, then you could come the mentor route. But if you would like to look into just level up, then we could go protege route.
Sort of both.
Well, perhaps maybe I would apply as a protege and then have that conversation with your point of contact. Because the other thing is that they can really they'll know the gaps if there's a high need for your expertise. For example, they'd be like, yes, please apply to be a mentor today.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your willingness to give back.
Sweet. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie, for stopping by. I greatly
course.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of
Good to
course.
see ya.
It's great seeing you. It's been a while. We need to catch up. All right. So we're gonna jump over to the next one that was on the slide, and it's Veterati. So in a way, the way that I see ACP is like a long-term relationship that you have with a mentor. Whereas Veterati is a little bit more like speed dating for mentorship. And as Rachel has said, finding mentors is going to be extremely important to the advancement in our careers. So if I was going to access the mentors, we are going to sign in using our LinkedIn account. So bear with me a moment while I do that. And maybe Rachel, this is a great place for you to sort of start out in providing mentorship. So as you can see here, once we are logged in, we can go by, who's available, the percentage of a match based off of what it is that we want to do that's in our LinkedIn profile and what the mentor has to offer. But more important for us in this workshop, we can actually look for military spouse specific mentors. So let's say, for example, we're going to stop here with Sydney Palmer. And if there's somebody that I'd highly recommend that you connect with on LinkedIn, because we are talking about building community, is Cindy's pretty amazing. And not that any of the others aren't. But what's really neat is you can have a 1 hour long conversation with as many of these individuals as you want. So we'll view her availability. And as you can see here in blue are her open times. So let's say I want to talk with her on Friday. She's got several opportunities available on that Friday, the 22nd. I pick the one that works best for my schedule, and then I send the request. Cindy will then get a text message from Veterati saying that there's an individual that has requested to have a conversation with her at 5 p.m. on the 22nd. At that time, you will receive a 1-800 phone call. And once you answer it, it will say to connect with your mentor, press 1. She's going to get a phone call to connect with your mentee, press 1. And then magically you are talking to each other. So you're not exchanging phone numbers or anything along those lines. What's really kind of nice about it is the conversation is literally set up to last for 60 minutes. And then after 60 minutes, the telephone call literally drops. So obviously a good mentor is going to be like, wow, we're having a great conversation. Let's exchange information and let's continue talking to each other. So what's kind of nice about this one is you can kind of pick and choose who you want to talk with. And for those individuals that maybe have decided they want to be a mentor, you can set up the time frames as to when you're available to speak with different types of people and guide them. So this is obviously a really good website for you to use if you want to connect and talk to a lot of different individuals. And then, of course, American Corporate Partners is a little bit more of that long-term relationship, building with each other, and then that mentor helping you get to where you need to go. So this is definitely another platform that I would look at as you are looking for help. Any comments on it? All right. So we hit this one, we hit MSEP. We're going to jump over to Blue Star Families. Not 100% the same thing as MSEP, but in a way they kind of partner off of it with offering data analysis as it relates to our military families and how they advance. So for this one, if I can go to my LinkedIn. Laura was going to join us, but she obviously wasn't able to. Oh. I'll put in her URL when we're at break. So that way, if you have any questions about Blue Star Families, you can reach out to them. The next one over here is Spousely. A lot of us have probably heard of Etsy. But Spousely is built for the military community. It's individuals not only selling goods, but selling services, but they're either a military spouse, a veteran, a first responder. And Monica Fullerton is the representative for Spousely. She is a military spouse, of course. But if you are in the business of trying to sell items and this is a direction you want to go, Spousely is going to be a lot cheaper than what Etsy would be. And more than anything, if you are looking to buy goods, why not buy from our community versus maybe going on to Etsy and buying from another person? I'm not promoting them at all. However, I love and believe in Monica, so I would like to support her. And this is my way of supporting her and also helping you build a business if that's something that you would like to do. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump over to Vets to Industry. Let me go over here. Brian Arrington was going to join us. I'm sure he got busy. So Vets to Industry is a nonprofit organization. They started out by wanting to provide resources to our military community. So if we jump over to services and we go to their resource library, we can either search by location or we can search by categories. For today, let's go ahead and we will search by categories. And as you can see here, there's all these different areas, whether it's building a business, disability, engagement, education, and then even down in education, it's down to our children, dependents, our spouses, our veterans, etc. So if we clicked on the spouses aspect of it, we have all these different areas in which they will help you, or these nonprofit organizations will help you grow professionally. What I love about this website and why I primarily direct the people at Scott Air Force Base to this site versus any others is because Brian has a background in security forces. So he vets, no pun intended, all of these companies before he posts them on his website. So they are legitimate. They're not going to take advantage of us. So you can go through these and kind of really pick out anything that might align with what you want to do in your career. Another great thing that they offer are different types of events. So prior to COVID, he was primarily a resource site. But once we were stuck at home, he kind of brainstormed and was thinking, what if I did different types of events where we could all get online on Zoom? Companies would talk about their job opportunities, resource organizations could talk about the services that they offer, educational institutions could talk about their higher education programs. And then while in between these companies talking about different entities, we're going to do breakout rooms where you'll be placed in a room with 9 strangers and you have to give your elevator pitch and just tell them what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Once everybody goes through that, the remainder of time that we have left, we simply just share our insight, we support each other, we help each other. And as you can see here, on March 23rd is going to be the MilSpouse Mixer. While this is absolutely open to veterans and the virtual networking is open to spouses, we don't define it. The difference is with the 23rd is it's really going to be niched down to the military spouse and helping you find success. This is, I think for the spouses, it's a 3-hour workshop. Leslie, if you're still on, you probably can remember a little bit more than me, but I think it's 3 hours. For the virtual networking, it's 5 hours. and she might have had to drop off because of work. But anyway, I would highly, highly recommend doing this. As I said before, you can't get found unless you show up. This is a great way to show up, learn about job opportunities with individuals that embrace your endeavors in finding new employment or a career. What's also really nice about this, even though it's an extended period of time, they allow you to come and go as you need to. So if you need to log off for an hour and then you decide you want to come back in, they're going to bring you back in. But I highly, highly, highly recommend taking advantage of their events. Any questions on this one? Okay. Let's jump over to the next slide. And I don't know why I put Fastly twice. Instant Teams is basically a placement company for military spouses. So they ideally work with helping you find employment, maybe remote type positions, contract type positions. But if you think of a headhunter or a placement agency or a recruiting agency for the military spouse, Instant Teams would be that. And then we won't have to worry about this one. I talked about it. Freelance Vets and Upwork are basically, if you are looking for employment, you have some skills that you have to offer, and you want to market those skills and maybe create sort of a part-time situation or a side hustle, so to speak. You could do that through Freelance Vets or Upwork. And then there's other ones out there, Freelancer, Fiverr, etc. But great opportunities to market your experience and then kind of build off of that. Anybody else that has joined us that has resources that they would like to share that maybe I didn't cover? Robin, I know you joined us. Do you have anything to say as a fellow MFRC? One sec. Okay, I'm going to give you a second. Well, I'm giving Robin one sec. I'm going to go back. I am also going to, I don't know who we have. Oh, have in here. That is Air Force. However, the Air Force Aid Society now provides $2,500 for you to obtain any certificate you would like. That's a pretty big deal, and that's a lot of money. Unfortunately, for our Army spouses and Navy spouses that might be joining us, it's only through the Air Force. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop in the flyer to learn about it. And then what I did learn is that this is not just a one-time opportunity. You can do this on a yearly basis. That's a lot of money. Thank you, Brianna. Would you like to talk to us about what it is that you're doing nowadays?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who don't know me, hi, I'm Brenna, military spouse, and I've been in the nonprofit development space for as long as I can remember, really. It's, I think as military spouses, many of us have been called to or voluntold to lend a lot of our free time to nonprofit organizations. And through the years, I've learned to use that to my advantage. So a lot of times when you volunteer, you are able to acquire skills that you would not be given in a paid position. So a good example is I've not just volunteered my time, the typical, thrift shop or baking cookies or, the typical things that we think military spouses do. But I've sat on nonprofit boards for organizations both in the base and outside of the base. And through that, I got to practice my hiring skills, how to read different earning statements for an organization, what it means to be different categories of nonprofit status within the IRS, and how to ensure that you're keeping those in good standing, so that your members can continue to do the tax deductions. Recruitment as far as volunteers is going to be very different as far as recruitment of paid employees, and how you manage those two different audiences, how to work with stakeholders. When you're sitting on a nonprofit board, there are so many different people that you have to account for in making decisions. And it's been those development skills, I think, that have really set me apart. So I got out of the recruiting space, aside from doing the hiring where I work now. So I do some consulting on the side for a healthcare tech company, but my day job is working for the Jewish war veterans, doing their outreach and programs. I most recently helped write the testimony, both the oral and the written statement, when we had our representatives sit in front of a combined House and Senate committee hearing. So every day is very, very different in the nonprofit world, and I definitely kind of thrive in that chaotic environment. So I've been there for about 35 days now, and it's been a very good fit.
Congratulations. So I see that you
Thank
are
you.
in your car, so I dropped in your LinkedIn URL so that way people can connect
Thank you.
with you that haven't yet. But no, she
Yeah.
just shares such amazing, valuable insight on LinkedIn that you definitely need to give her a follow and learn and grow from what it is that she has accomplished, because she's obviously, like all the others here, are amazing military spouses. So thank you for all you do.
Well, thanks, Scott. I think we tend to think that our journey needs to look like that on the civilian side. And I understand that there's the pay disparity, we don't tend to save for our own retirement, all of that kind of, that story that we tell ourselves all the time. But we need to remember that the experiences that we're getting and the lives that we're touching and just kind of the fun that we're having can offset all those negatives. And I think we need to focus more on the positives of what our life gives us and stop focusing on kind of the narrative that we're told we need to care about. Like, I've lived overseas twice. So for 6 years, we've lived in different areas. I would have never chosen to live in Georgia. We get to live in Washington, D.C. I just got to finish, doing a presentation on a base. So there's more positives than negatives, but I think that we just get caught in this downward spiral of negativity instead of celebrating the positives. Like, it can definitely be really crappy and suck. I'm not saying that this is like the most amazing life all of the time, but it's pretty damn cool.
I would have to agree. And I think Rachel can attest to that too, with everything that she's been to and where she's been, and now where she's placing herself for success on her own, whether it's, in your case, nonprofit, or in Rachel's case, entrepreneurship, right? It can go, either way, which, and then anything in between is an opportunity that's there. But once again, you got to be willing to put yourself out there to get that opportunity and take those risks.
Right. Absolutely.
I just want to piggyback there real quick. Recently I've had a lot of success in 2023. It wasn't projected. And I think it's putting the stones on the path, and it's more about just doing the hard work every day. And then all of a sudden it all comes together. Some that didn't know me thought, oh, something must have fallen out of the sky to give me all of these benefits. And it was really just working hard for so we've been retired Army for 7 years. And that trajectory, we had a path, and the path was go back and get my executive MBA at WashU. And then it was maybe I'll work part-time. The kids are still young. So it's like taking little baby steps, but aligning to goals, like be a goal setter, or at least have a list of goals that you would like to accomplish. Because after 20 years of being in the military, I always was shifting my goals. I had goals that I couldn't keep because of a move or other things, but then there were other options on my list of goals I wanted to achieve that I was able to um, see come to fruition by just being agile and moving. So the biggest thing is to try to keep a good positive mental attitude, look for the blessings, and be grateful for the wonderful people that come into your life, because the military space, there are awesome people. And those are some of my favorite friends ever. I've been out for 7 years, but I'm still very close and connected to my Army girlfriends. So yeah, don't lose hope, stay positive, and the things that you get to encounter in this lifestyle are so different than anything on the outside. So enjoy it while you can. But there's also other blessings waiting for you on the other side of the journey.
Love that. Absolutely. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. I don't know how much you can stick around, but I see that you're kind of in transition, moving around, Brianna, with your car and everything. But if you could stick around with us, I obviously greatly appreciate that. All right. So Robin brought up some really great resources as well. And I would like to take you out there real quick. And Robin, if you could drop in the link. I'm just going to go ahead and do Onward to Opportunity. Since I'm kind of going to it, if you could put in the link for those to find it, I'd appreciate it. So Onward to Opportunity, what they will do is they have obviously programs for entrepreneurship, but then they also have programs for certifications. And what they will do is they will give you one free certification based off of the list that is offered here. So of course, a lot of IT things. Get down into business management. So we have project management, we have things related to human resources, Six Sigma, customer service, etc. But you can pick one of them. So as I kind of coach my military spouses at Scott Air Force Base, who are typically Air Force, I say, if you're going to get $2,500 from the Air Force Aid Society, why not take the one that would be at the cheaper from Onward to Opportunity, have them pay for that, and then for the one that is the more advanced that might cost you a little bit more money, have the Air Force Aid Society pay for that one. Another good one that you might want to look at and think about is going to be Sigma Forces. Sigma Forces is actually run by a military spouse. The story behind her is that she was in Korea. She was having a hard time finding employment. So she decided, and she went through the Six Sigma certifications, and she felt like they were amazing. So she decided to offer the certifications to our community as well. Now, if you look at some of these, you're going to see a price tag here. Don't necessarily worry about the price tag. If you go ahead and you apply to get certified, they will recognize that you're either a military member, a veteran, or a spouse, and then they're going to reach out to another organization called Boots to Books. I think this is it. And their organization, oops, it didn't open, so I might be wrong. Their organization will then provide you with a scholarship, so that way you don't have to pay for this certification. Because they are a for-profit The reason that they have the price tag here is in case a civilian comes across it and they want to get certified in any of these areas, then of course it would cost a civilian. But for us in the community, they will get a scholarship for you to obtain it. So it's everything from Six Sigma to Scrum to digital marketing, etc. But it's all here for you, and again, at no cost. So with that said, and let me see. Again, when we take our break, I will go ahead and I'll put I'm sorry, the name escapes me. One thing that I'm really bad at would be names. There's certain names I obviously remember. But everybody that's part of this, and that's not any of them, the leadership team. So Casey. Casey is the founder and CEO, once again, a military spouse. So definitely follow her, connect with her, because she's up and coming and doing some amazing things. So so a lot of great resources out there. As we go through this presentation, at the end of it, of course, reach out to me if there's anything specifically that you are looking for. And I can see if we can align it with you. Obviously, Robin is here. Robin, did you drop in your LinkedIn URL yet for people to connect with? So she's a counterpart with me. Thank you, Robin. And then yes, Act Now Education is a really another good website for free resources to help you advance in your career as well. So we have already given you a lot of money and resources. So don't go away. We have gone for an hour and 15 minutes. So we are going to take about a 10-minute break. We're going to come back at 25 after, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into our slides. And we're going to start to talk about resumes and looking for a job from A to Z. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a break, regain our composure, and we'll get started in about 10 minutes. Sound pretty good?
Sounds great. Scott, I have one more add-on as you were
Yes.
just talking about Casey, and I just spoke to her not too long ago because I was a speaker that you gave me that opportunity to be a speaker for the St. Louis Public Library System on transition.
Oh, you did that.
And
Okay.
I did do that. We had a small turnout, but it's better than no turnout.
Absolutely.
But I called Casey because I knew she was starting the new Vector Accelerator. And so she and I had a quick conversation. I'm just kind of spreading the word. I don't know a lot about it. She gave me a flyer. I handed it out at the library, but it is a for all transitioning veterans and I think spouses, and it's a free accelerator journey program that she's piloting. So if you want to reach out to her, Scott gave you that information, but you know, she put something on her social media about it, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity and it's free. So I thought I would just share that for her.
Love it. Love it. And really what I want people to, and then we're going to take our break, but we got to make this point right now, right? The community is extremely small. It's huge, but it's small, right? So the fact that like I would have never thought that you're talking to Casey, and so it's just like this. It's really a matter of how much are you willing to put yourself into this community and build upon it, you know, because we all come together, and it's actually smaller than what we think it is. And I really believe that putting yourself out there is really what you need to do. And LinkedIn brings it all together, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Okay, so thank you, Rachel, for sharing that. Let's go ahead and now let's take once again about a 10-minute break. If it's about 12:30, we come back 12:30 Central Time. You know, so about 10 to 14 minutes, we'll get started. Sound pretty good? Sweet. I'm actually going to. All right, we're gonna give it a couple more minutes. And then we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, I was going to ask for the spouses that are here. I'm creating a basket, so to speak, of information for our incoming spouses. And besides information, I was wondering what kind of things that would be useful to put in there. I'm putting in Scott's contact info and some local information on childcare, but I'm not a military spouse. I'm the civilian employee at the Air Force ROTC. So if anyone has suggestions of things that they would have appreciated knowing or having before they got somewhere, drop a line in the chat. I appreciate it. Any suggestions?
Like what they wish they would have known
Yes.
as their military member ventured into a career in the service.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of, since we're so far away from the base, what are some things that we can do? Oh, a list of things to do it. Okay, great. And if they have kids, my son was going to walk around and give a tour at 10 years old, so we could send him a YouTube video of, hey, here's the local playgrounds and stuff, that kind of thing, youth sports in the area. Great, thank you, Amanda. I'm writing all these down.
Okay, yeah, I love that idea. And they could just drop it in the chat box.
Okay.
Would that work?
Yes, that would be fabulous.
I know.
Right. And Scott, you said you cannot get found unless you show up. Is that you, or are you quoting someone else? Because I'm totally putting this on my LinkedIn profile. I love it.
No, yeah, I want to take credit for it, but maybe I heard it someplace else, but I believe it to be true. So I will take credit for that.
Okay. Oh, great.
Nadia, did you just join us? I think we're coming back from break because Nadia is here, and I think it's a good time for that to happen. This is like seeing. This is like having a Bigfoot sighting. Nadia actually has shown up to an event.
I know. It is rare. It is very rare that I show up to events. So you are important enough that I took time to show up.
I'm beaming with pride. Thank you. So we just went through different resources. I'm going to go ahead and unpause my sharing because there was one that I thought of. Can you guys see my screen now? Am I resharing my screen? It says I'm sharing my screen. Can you see the key community?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So they also weren't able, and look who's populated like right here. So the key community is with the Domingos. Sam and Ray Domingo. I put Sam first because she is the military spouse. And they do a lot of great online events, the same way that Vets to Industry does a lot of great online events as well. What I was hoping to highlight is that tomorrow, Samantha Domingo is actually doing a military spouse sort of career connector. So follow the key, connect with Samantha. I'll go ahead and I'll drop her URL in here. So that way it's easy for you to connect with her. And then I would, once again, as we talk about, you can't be seen unless you show up. This is a great opportunity to get found. So I'll put that in there while Nadia introduces herself and tells us about her journey from being a civil servant to working at a company that she didn't really care for to where she's at now. So go ahead, Nadia.
Hi, everybody. I am Scott's best friend forever. I'm not sure if he's told you that or not. My name is Nadia Newkirk. I am a military spouse. My service member retired. So now I'm a retired military spouse. I need to get used to saying that because he's just been retired a year. I have met Scott through an event much like the one that you're attending today. When I was trying to figure out what my next steps looked like in my career, because I was working in the federal government and I had just found that space didn't quite align with where I was looking to be from a professional standpoint and from where I was in my degree program, because a lot of what was happening in the role that I had was me coming up with really great ideas for my education program and my leaders saying, well, that's not how we're going to do it. We've done it this way for the last 10 years. This is how we're going to continue to do it. And so I reached a professional crossroads where I realized that I needed to expand my experience and move into the private sector. And so I started delving into the world of LinkedIn. I had no idea what it was about, how to use it, how to network, how to leverage the platform. And I ran into Scott probably within my first week on the platform and started following Scott and just kind of picking up these like little tidbits of how to connect, how to use the platform, how to leverage it through my job search. That's the wrong profile.
So what the heck? Who's that person?
I had to hide my profile because of work that I was doing at AWS. So it'll just be Nadia In. So just search for Nadia In and it'll pull me up. Yep. Second one down. Yep, that's me. And so I started kind of networking on LinkedIn. I started posting on LinkedIn. I started engaging with people's posts because I didn't know how to use the platform. And all of a sudden, it just totally snowballed into like people wanting to connect with me, people inviting me to events and including me and tagging me on LinkedIn. And so I developed a pretty quick presence on LinkedIn. And I absolutely loved engaging with different people. They were not mil spouses at my local base. They were people who were working for big companies, and they were people that I wanted to learn from. And through LinkedIn, I had that opportunity to start networking and looking at how people were leveraging the platform. Through my connections and my networking on LinkedIn, I had a recruiter reach out to me about a job opportunity at Manpower Group. And so when people say, hey, recruiters are going to reach out to you on LinkedIn, they actually will if you engage on the platform and you're active and you're kind of following the companies that you're thinking about working for. So I had a recruiter reach out. That job opportunity led to an amazing opportunity working for a Fortune 500 company. But I got to a crossroads once a new manager came into the role where I recognized that I wasn't learning anymore. And it was time for me to leave. And at that time, my manager, so networking goes beyond LinkedIn in the sense that my manager who hired me into the role at Manpower Group, she had left and moved on to AWS. but we had stayed really close and connected because we had formed such a great working relationship at Manpower Group. And so one night we caught up and she said, hey, some new roles have opened up. I'd love to be a referral for you at AWS. So it wasn't a connection that I meant on LinkedIn, but it was somebody that I had built a really good connection with because of how I had networked on LinkedIn. And so I got this referral to AWS, ended up looping, got the role at AWS, all through networking. It was partly because of my work experience and how I had built my career to that point, but a lot of it also had to do with networking, because getting into these top tech companies, everybody will tell you, you have to know somebody who will vouch for you and who their work experience and their brand is going to speak to you or speak for you when a company says, hey, we're hiring, do you know anybody? That's the first way that most companies hire is, hey, we have an open position, do you know anybody? So networking extends beyond LinkedIn and is crucial in the LinkedIn world, because that's how you get people to say your name in rooms that you're not even in, at tables that you don't even have a seat at, is by building such strong relationships. Because for me, it's about relationships. It's not necessarily about networking. It is absolutely about relationships. And Scott and myself and our friendship is attested by the fact that we have a really good relationship that extends beyond LinkedIn. And so I got this role at AWS. It was challenging and hard and difficult in all the right and wrong ways, because it also allowed me to recognize my professional boundaries and what was important to me, to where a few months ago, a week ago, I don't know, it feels like forever ago, but in January, I made the decision to leave my role at AWS, which everybody will tell you, don't leave a role until you have a new one lined up. But sometimes there comes a point where you just know something isn't right for you. And I know as a military spouse, that's often hard, because we often feel like we have to just take what we can just to get some work experience or to get our name out there. But I made the decision to leave one of the top tech companies because it didn't align with my personal brand. It didn't align with my professional brand. And I didn't feel fulfilled in the work that I was doing. And so I made the decision to leave, and I didn't have a role to go into, but I knew that I had built enough of a career and I had built my skills to the point that I knew how to network myself. And so I took some time off because I absolutely needed it. And one night I saw this opportunity come up on LinkedIn. It was a hiring manager that had posted about a position available on their team. And so I wrote a cover letter, which you often hear, cover letters don't go anywhere. I had seen that this hiring manager had reposted the position. So it had been posted before, they didn't get enough candidates, or whatever the reason was, it was reposted 2 weeks later. And so I catered the cover letter to understanding how and why they were reposting the position. I asked the question, is there something specific that you're looking for in this role with this candidate that you're looking for? And I sent it to the hiring manager that had posted that day. So I did it immediately. Like, she had posted at 10 o'clock that day. By 10 o'clock that night, after I got done with work, I ended up sending this this cover letter and this LinkedIn message to the hiring manager. And I also applied for the position. So I said, hey, I noticed today you applied, like you posted this position. Attached is my cover letter of how I feel I'm a good fit for this role. And I've also gone ahead and applied for this job on the portal that you provided in your post. She immediately responded to me and she was like, thanks for reaching out. Like, we'll be looking through resumes. 2 days later, the recruiter reached out to me and wanted to do a phone screen. And I kind of worked through the process of going through all the interviews. And so this was in December, before I'd even made the decision to leave AWS. I had this kind of one night, I just applied to this job, and I was very strategic. I tailored my resume, I tailored my cover letter, and I was very strategic in the wording and how I presented it to the hiring manager that had posted. And so we did the interview. I did the phone screen and moved through that. And then I did the interview with the hiring manager that I had messaged. And she was like, we have a couple more interviews, but every interview that I had, everybody was already talking about me in the position. they're like, you'll see when you get into this role and you'll see what the volume is like. And so they were saying, without me saying it, because part of the strategy with interviews is to have the interviewer imagine you in the role. So ask questions, you know, what will be my challenges in the first 90 days in this role? Like asking them questions so they can see you in the role. They already saw me in the role because they were responding in a way that said, you'll see when you're in this role. So I knew that I was one of their top candidates by the language that they were using. And then something interesting happened because it was between me and one other candidate. And the other candidate was an internal candidate. And I knew from my research on LinkedIn that this company was really big on internal hires. They promoted from within because everybody that I looked at had 20, 25 years, 10 years of tenure at this company. So I knew that they were really big on internal hires. And so in my last kind of interview, I asked that question, like, you know, what is it that you're looking for in this space and for this candidate and for this role? And so through those connections that I had with everybody that I interviewed with, and I interviewed with 3 people, it came down to me and one other candidate who was internal. And the hiring manager chose the internal candidate, but what she ended up doing was there was a position that opened up on another team that hadn't been posted. They hadn't even like opened the rec for it yet. And she went ahead and spoke to the hiring manager for the next team and had said, this is a candidate that you need on the team. So I ended up accepting a role that never got posted, that there wasn't a rec to, but because of the relationships that I had built through my interviews, she went ahead and vouched for me with this other team. And I had one interview. It was just with the hiring manager. And he was like, you'd be a great fit. I'd love to offer you the role, like in that same conversation. And so I think I say all that to now I'm at Starbucks working on their corporate ER team. I say all that to say that how you present yourself as you're doing informational interviews, as you're doing coffee connects with people to get to know about the role, as you're asking people, hey, I saw an open role at your company. I'd love to hear more about your company and the role. Do it in such a way that people will speak for you in rooms where you're not even, like, you don't even know that there's an opportunity for you there, because that hiring manager took her 30-minute conversation with me and the other 30-minute conversations and looked at my LinkedIn profile and had kind of seen my activity to then tell this next hiring manager that I'd never spoken to, I'd never met. And she was like, you need to take time to talk to this person and consider them for your open role. And when I joined this team, I realized how much some of the other people on the panel had said the exact same thing. So they took that 30-minute conversation and it totally blew up into this amazing opportunity at this company that I never, ever considered working for. But I'm so thankful that things worked out the way that they did. And so I was strategic. I didn't apply to 100 jobs. I didn't go that route. I was strategic in how I applied for this role, how I networked with this person, how I spoke in my interviews, because I didn't want to go through that process. And I had seen hundreds of people posting on LinkedIn about, I've done 100 resumes, I've tailored them, I don't know what I'm doing right. And sometimes it really is just when you have that open door and that conversation, like doing it in such a way that they want you in their organization and they'll make space for you. And so I encourage you. It doesn't always work out. Like, cover letters don't always work. Applying to one job doesn't always work, but build a presence and build a brand and build your experience to where people want you on their team. Even if they don't have an open role right now, they want to think about you in the future. They want to refer you to another team. They want to refer you to another role. Because that's where the power of like LinkedIn and relationships like truly start to matter, because you get to see the movers and shakers in that company, and you get to see recruiters posting, hey, I have this role. Hey, I have this role. And it's not about those roles don't apply to me. It's like, hey, when a role does open, I've built such a relationship with this recruiter that they will put my name forward for this role, that they will consider me. Oh my gosh, did I just disappear?
Take your
So
time.
that they will consider you for that role. And so keep showing up to Scott's networking events, keep taking the little tidbits that he drops and that, you know, the people that he tells you to connect with, because those are absolutely, they might not open a door for you, but they're going to build a relationship that you're one day going to have to lean on for something. I didn't network into this role specifically because I didn't know anybody at Starbucks. So I couldn't tap into my network and say, hey, do you know somebody? I strictly had to do it with the hiring manager one-on-one and build such a rapport with that person, which also came from building years and years of my experience. And so I'm here to encourage you that as a milspouse, sometimes it can get discouraging because you give up a lot in pursuit of your service member and their career, but take the opportunity to really build on your skills and build on what's important to you and what you're passionate about, because one day those pieces are absolutely all going to fall into place for you. Like absolutely all going to fall into place. And networking with people that I have worked with has led to some amazing opportunities. So go back to people that you've worked with and just stay connected to people you know are going to be movers and shakers, because you'll know people who are going to be kind of like work at companies that you're going to want to work at. So that's my advice to you is build really strong relationships, because you don't know when you're going to need them, and lean on them. Just like Scott and I have this amazing relationship that when he calls, I stop everything that I am doing, which is actual work, to hop on to this call to be present and be available, because I know what Scott is sharing with you is all things that I put into practice that helped me leverage when I was looking for a role. Please connect with me. I mean, I'm not always on LinkedIn, but I promise I'm getting back into it. But if you have any questions, like I'm happy to answer them for you.
So, out of that long dissertation, I gathered less is more, be strategic, build community, not just a network, build relationships, and don't be afraid, right? So, I mean, you know, it's an amazing story, and that's why we're good friends. And back in the day, we used to really kill it on these night workshops that we used to do, and maybe we'll get there again. But thank you for sharing your story. I greatly appreciate it. And Jamie, did you have anything? Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and continue on with our slides. And let's see where we go from A to Z in the job search process. So obviously we're starting out with the resume, and the resume is extremely unique in that how you present yourself on paper as you apply for a job can be different for every individual. The purpose of a resume is really only to garner that initial phone call. So was talking to Glenda, who just came back to us, and she has decided to switch from a more of a chronological resume to a functional resume, because she is starting to feel like that is going to best sell her in the light of being a military spouse that, you know, might have a potential spotty type of work history. So it's a little bit more focused on skill set versus career experience and work history, which is totally fine. The idea is, with a resume, we want to entice them to pick up the phone, to call us, to get a better idea of who we are, and what we've done, to make it a determination as to whether or not we want to do a more formalized interview. And as I stated, I don't have a lot of time to do 3 hours worth of resume writing. However, on my YouTube channel, there is a 3-hour workshop related to resume writing. So keep in mind that the resume is only a marketing tool designed to entice the recruiter to call you to potentially set up an interview. So with that said, we need to actually figure out ways to decrease barriers that would prevent them from potentially giving you that call. So the first thing that we might look at and consider is our contact information. Back in the day, about 6 years ago, we would have our location, our actual physical address as to where it is that we lived. We no longer need that. We can either leave it blank, as we're seeing here with Rose, or we could have greater St. Louis area or whatever greater community that you currently live in. So that way they could see that you are somewhat looking for employment in that area. If you are looking for remote type work, then I would probably recommend leaving it totally blank. So telephone number, email address, make sure that your email address is professional. I would highly recommend creating a brand new email address only for your job search. I would hate for you to miss out on an opportunity because of shopping coupons and spam and all those different types of things. If you create a brand new email address, ideally with first name, last name, something along those lines, nothing that potentially shows your age. So if you decide you want to use numbers, use extremely random numbers. So that way you know everything going to that address is related to your job search. As far as your LinkedIn URL, I would highly recommend adding your LinkedIn URL if you are confident in them looking at your LinkedIn profile. If your LinkedIn profile is at a place where you're kind of like, I don't know, then don't put the URL in there. We're going to talk about LinkedIn in a little bit, but this is going to be the place where they're going to get more information about who you are, what you've done, your goals, your ambitions, etc., that they're not necessarily going to see in the resume. And if your profile is totally blank at this moment, then I would not put the URL in your resume. Next slide. The next area of importance is going to be the career summary. I'm going to bring this all together for us with an example resume that I'm going to show you. But the purpose of a summary is to catch the reader's attention, to let them know right up front that they should read the rest of the document. It is almost like if you looked at a newspaper that is folded in half, it's going to give them the gist of exactly who you are and what it is that you have done. If we look at this example here, which I need to replace because I hate it, astute, result-oriented, resilient, take out all that stuff. It's not relevant. They don't care about it. They would assume you're astute. They would assume that you're result-oriented. They would assume that you're resilient. So we don't need to tell them that. Just jump into exactly what it is that you have done. Workforce development, personal organization, scheduling, operational management. Those are hard skills that they care about. The fluff, remove it from your resume. Focus on accomplishments, outcomes, metrics, data, results. That's what they want to see in a resume. I do like the idea of potentially having core competencies, areas of expertise, where you have a listing of anywhere between 9 or 12 of your skill sets that are aligned exactly to the position that you're pursuing. This is where you're going to be tailoring your resume to match up to the vacancy announcement. Any comments from those that are out there that have been there, done that on the head, what your contact information and a summary? Sweet. Then I'll move on. The next one is going to be the professional experience. Now, in an ideal world, a recruiter or a hiring manager is going to prefer that your resume is done in a chronological format. A functional style, which is more skill-based, sometimes is recognized as being like you're trying to potentially hide something from them. However, again, based off of your experience, gaps of employment, etc., it might be more advantageous for you to put together a functional style resume versus a chronological resume. And understanding that everybody is a little bit different, we need to make a determination as to what might be best for you. Volunteerism can be important. Again, if you have any type of gap in employment, but you volunteered while you're taking care of the kiddos or while your spouse was deployed, you would want to add that to your resume to show that you have been proactive in your career development. Is it a matter of putting that in the bottom as being volunteerism, or putting it chronologically as part of your work experience? That's going to be a little bit more for you to decide. However, for the 10 people that we have here, however many that are actually active looking for jobs, I am here for you. We can brainstorm together to make a determination as to which format of a resume is going to work best for you in marketing yourself as you apply for different types of jobs. Special projects obviously could be relevant, but bottom line, if we look at these bottom two statements, we want to show our results, our accomplishments, how we're better than the competition. And the only way we can do that is by adding data and metrics. Education and training, list the school, the degree. I should have updated these slides because nowadays the date you completed your degree is no longer relevant. They just want to know where you went to school and the degree you obtained. If it's relevant, then you might want to put your minor. And if you lack any type of job experience related to the profession that you're trying to break into, you might want to put the different types of courses that you've taken that relate to the career that you're trying to press into. Same way with any type of internships or special projects that you worked on while you're at school. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you just a quick example of a resume. This is for a military spouse who was also a teacher. I'll make this a little bit bigger so that way it's just one page that we're looking at. So as you can see here, your name, your phone number, your email address, your LinkedIn URL if it's relevant. You don't necessarily need to say, this is my professional summary. What I want you to put right here is the job title of the position that you are pursuing. So obviously it's going to change depending on the jobs that you're seeing. And then we want to hit them right up front with how your skills align with this position. Again, to entice the reader to want to look at the rest of the resume. In a perfect world, we would have metrics up here, but in this case, we don't necessarily have that. But what we decided to do instead was provide a category called selected accomplishments. This is a little bit functional, which is awesome. These would be your 5 to 6 greatest hits that has happened throughout your career that have data and outcomes to it. Then we can break down into the professional experience. Again, with the professional experience, as we look at these bullet points, each one has some sort of metrics aligned with it. except maybe this one here. Maybe here we could put, the number of conferences that you had. Go down a little bit further. Again, more data, metrics, etc. And then we get into our education, certifications, those types of things. If you are a recent graduate, strategically, and Nadia mentioned this a lot, she was very strategic in how she was reaching out to the people at Starbucks. You need to do the exact same thing. For one job, maybe your education should be at the bottom. For another position, maybe you need to move the education to the top. For one position, maybe there's some bullet points that happened in the earlier part of your career that are extremely relevant to this new job that you're pursuing. You need to find a way to push that to the top of your resume, which then might fall under this area of selected accomplishments. Does that make sense with anybody? Does anybody have any questions on how to align their resume?
Can I tag team on you, Scott, there on that education
Yeah.
topic? Because my education is like 20 plus years ago now, and I had buried it in the bottom kind of, with the standard spouse resume of, lots of different jobs and skill sets. And I had a Wells Fargo manager looking over my resume, and he got to the bottom where the education was, and he was like, "Oh, you're an engineer? I can teach you anything. You need to move this to the top."
Yes.
So I was like, oh, something that I had kind of just like been like, well, don't ask me to do, differential equations anymore. So I started pushing that stuff down for education. He was like, oh, no, move this to the top. So now for me, now this is coming from someone who does not currently have a job, but I moved it, right under professional summary, basically for my current resume. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to throw that out first.
Did you remove the dates?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, just remove the dates, bachelor's degree or master's degree in engineering. That's all they need at that point. And, as Katie, who comes to a lot of our workshops, she has said one of her biggest pet peeves is when she's hiring for a position that requires a bachelor's degree. And most people put their education at the very bottom. She's like, I got to scroll to the very bottom of the resume to make sure that they have the bachelor's degree. So that box is checked. And then I go back to the top of the resume to make sure that, they have the experience that we're looking for. So again, as you're looking at a vacancy announcement, if something is required, put it at the top of the resume. So that way they don't have to go up and down in your resume to meet those requirements. So you're spot on. I love the idea that you decided to move that to the top. Anything else from anybody else? Awesome. So even if we look at this resume right here real quick, like this one right here, this had nothing to do with her time frame of being a teacher. It was something that she had done at the very early part of her career, but we don't want it to get buried at the bottom of the resume. So we push it to the top since her ultimate goal was no longer being a teacher. She wanted to break away from the classroom and pivot into the corporate world. So we needed to move some of those things that she had done in the corporate world to the top of the resume. And you can do that by having this sort of functional type or hybrid type resume. And again, if you need anything from me, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn after our workshop. Hey, Scott, do you have a resume geared toward whatever it might be? And I'd be happy to share that with you. I have a lot of resumes. All right. See ya, Nadia. Bye. All right, so let's keep pressing forward. Any type of extras in the resume that you might want to add, technology skills. Sometimes, once again, if you're looking at a vacancy announcement and they want experience with Excel, PowerPoint, etc., then you might want to have technology skills in your resume. Honors and awards, obviously, yes, if there's room. Any type of community engagements, whether it's public speaking, belonging to committees, or any type of task force, then yes, you might want to put that in your resume if it's relevant to the job that you're pursuing. Volunteerism, once again, could be important, but once again, are you using volunteerism as a military spouse to fill a gap? If that's the case, then put it in your professional experience. If you have a solid work history and the volunteerism is a extra that's going to align with the company's perspective, then you would go ahead and have that as a separate category. And of course, if you are bilingual, trilingual, multilingual, then again, make that determination. How important is that to the job that I'm applying for? Should it be at the top of the resume or at the bottom of the resume? Again, depending on your flavor, there are 3 different ways that you can kind of sell yourself on paper. The first one is the chronological aspect of it, which is your most recent job working backwards. Probably about 10 to 15 years is what we're looking at. This is probably the most common type of resume that people use. However, if you do have a lot of career gaps or breaks in work, it might not be the most effective. In that case, you probably want to go to a functional style resume that focuses more on your skills and your duties than your work history. However, the problem with this resume is sometimes recruiters will look at it and it'll automatically make them wonder, why are you doing a functional style resume versus a chronological resume? In my mind, Scott speaking, the best style of resume is a combination. It is a mix between the functional, which focuses on the skills that the company wants, but it also gives them a background of your work history and how you have progressed in your career. And it fills the gaps in any types of breaks that you might have in work. Nowadays, companies are a lot more lenient towards gaps of employment after COVID. They have become to more embrace that, hey, sometimes people need to take a step back in order to take a leap forward. And oftentimes that means taking a break in work. Nadia, who has left us, had mentioned that, she felt like with where she was at with AWS, that she had reached the end of her rope, that she had to resign from that position, take some time with her family, recoup, and then press forward. A lot of times companies will look at that as being, okay, this individual is now refreshed, they're ready to go, they've worked on their career development, and they're now in a place where they're going to be beneficial to our organization. So in my mind, the best type of resume would be a combination style resume. Any questions on the arrangement style as it might relate to where you're at in your career? Okay. The next one is sort of, how do we kind of decide what keywords are in the job announcement should be in our resume? And you could create a word cloud, and the idea with the word cloud is you copy everything that's in the vacancy announcement, you put it into Word It Out. And then whatever words are larger are the ones that have been presented the most in that vacancy announcement. I've sort of moved away from that one, and I actually recommend using skillsyncer.com. Hopefully this is going to open for me. Skillsyncer.com is free to military and students, but it's also free to military spouses. So if you click on this, it'll take you through the process on how to get the free service. But what it does is, let me go back, is you upload the job announcement and then you upload your resume. It looks at the two of them and then it tells you what keywords are missing in your resume, so that way you can better tailor your resume to match up to the job that you're pursuing. Another great thing about this platform is that you can actually track the jobs that you have applied for, where it's at in the process, who you've spoken to, etc. So watch list, applied, and then I kind of missed the other area, but it tracks the whole thing for you. So it's almost like an applicant tracking system for the job seeker. So I would highly recommend using this platform. Number one, to make sure that your resume is aligned with the job announcement. And number two, to track the jobs that you have applied for. Questions? Okay. LinkedIn, as Nadia had stated, this is ultimately where the magic happens. As you can see here, 89% of all recruiters have actually hired somebody off of this platform. And over 10 million people have found their job using LinkedIn. You really, if anything, if I say where you need to invest your time, it is here. It is that vital to your career progression. Whether you have a job and you just want to grow in your profession, or you're looking for a job and you would like to build on the job search process. It is extremely expensive for companies to get a LinkedIn license, market job opportunities, yet companies are willing to invest their money on this platform because it's that amazing for them. So what I tell my clients is I want you to invest your time where they spend their money. And if they're willing to spend their money on LinkedIn, you should be on this platform. With that said, through Seco, you get 1 free year of LinkedIn Premium. So if you are in the market of looking for a job today, you should get LinkedIn Premium. If you are like, okay, my child is 3 years old, I have a couple more years before I start looking for employment, then maybe you wait a little bit to get that LinkedIn Premium. But basically what you get with a premium service, which is $40 a month, if you don't have the free asset to it, you can see who's viewed your profile, which can be beneficial. A lot of times I look to see who's viewed my profile, and if they didn't reach out to connect with me, I'll initiate that connection. If I was looking for employment if I notice that a company that I'm interested in, some recruiters from that company started to look at my profile, then I know something good is potentially happening. I also get 5 in-mails. An in-mail is basically an email that you can send to somebody that you're not connected to. You get 5 a month. And then those roll over every month. So if you used 1, the next month you're gonna have 9. And you can save up to 45 in-mails. What's nice about an in-mail is you get more characters versus a connection request. With a connection request, you get 300 characters. With an in-mail, it's something around 1,500. And then you can also add attachments. So if you were reaching out to a recruiter, you could attach your resume to solidify how you're reaching out to them and why you're reaching out to them. You also get an advanced search as to kind of filtering and connecting with different types of people. Particularly if you're looking at an organization and you're trying to figure out who are the recruiters that work for that company, or maybe somebody that was in the same branch of service as your spouse. You get an open network, which allows anybody to connect with you. Of course, you have the ultimate decision whether you accept it or not, but at least it gives them the opportunity for them to connect with you. And then what I really like about this one is your competition level. So as you are potentially applying for jobs, I'm gonna go to LinkedIn real quick. Right here, I'm gonna go to jobs. Oops. Sorry, I didn't need to do that one. All right, jobs. Like if I pick this job right here, it's got over 100 applicants already. With premium, I can see the recruiter who posted that opportunity. And then if I scroll down, I can see how many people have applied for the job, how many people have applied for the job in the last day. I can see their seniority level. I can notice their education level, where they've applied for the position. This should have populated as a map. And then as premium, I can also see who else they're hiring in that area. And then I can get more information about the organization. So this is a huge benefit to having premium. But this is also why I would not turn on premium unless I'm actively looking for a new opportunity. And then finally, you get access to LinkedIn Learning, which is over 12,000 courses related to the industry that you might be willing or wanting to break into. This is really good if you don't have any certifications, because after you complete the LinkedIn Learning, it will ask you, do you want to add this to your profile? So if my goal was to break into maybe Salesforce, I took a lot of different courses on LinkedIn Learning related to Salesforce. As people looked at my profile, they would be able to see that I have all this knowledge in Salesforce, even though I may not necessarily have the hands-on experience working with that platform. So I think LinkedIn Premium has great value. After you use your 1 year, is it worth $40? I would let you decide on that. However, I would probably say if I really needed a job, I would be willing to invest $40 a month on this platform to have the insight that's being offered, only if I was actively looking for a job. Any questions on LinkedIn Learning? And thank you, Casey, for dropping in the link for them to obtain that. Any questions so far? Sweet, keep moving on. All right, The best profile includes a professional picture. A lot of times, and I'm not, hopefully nobody's on here or nobody listens to this video and that's you, but if it is you, then you need to make the enhancement. Do not take a profile picture of you in your car with your seatbelt on. Do not take a picture of you with your family. LinkedIn is not necessarily Facebook. LinkedIn is about you as a professional. So make it about you as a professional. Now, I will digress in a moment. Your banner. Your banner is the image behind your profile picture. Instead of calling it a banner, I like to call it a billboard. Think of it as an opportunity to visually sell yourself. How are you going to let individuals see what it is that you do visually? The best way to create a LinkedIn banner is going to probably be through Canva. And then you can do it any way you would like. The next thing you want to do is you want to customize your URL. So I'm going to take you through that real quick so that way it's recorded. Because I also think if you're going to add your LinkedIn URL to your resume or your networking cards, we want to make sure that it's customized. So what you're going to do is over here, you're going to click. And then you're going to, I've got all this stuff here. All right, let me move that out of the way. I have a lot of extensions going on to help me. Then you're over here, you're going to click on public profile in URL. And then you can click on this pencil. And then for a lot of us, there might be a lot of letters or numbers or something after our name. The idea is we want you to remove that to clean it up. If you hit save and it's already taken, then maybe you want to put in your middle initial. Or maybe you want to put in the major metropolitan area code of where you live. So my area code in O'Fallon, Illinois is 618, but I don't want people to know that I am in Illinois. So I'm going to put 314. Or you could do STL. Or you could do, if you had a certification like I do, CPCC, something to make it a little bit unique. The last thing that I would recommend is putting the year that you were born. It will date yourself, and again, that would create a barrier. All right. So that's how you can customize your LinkedIn URL. The header, we want to make sure that your header is heavy with keywords. Ideally, we want you to think of what keywords do you believe a recruiter would be searching to find your talent. Those are the words that you want in your header. Again, you get about 300 characters. We want a summary or about section that is catchy and it tells your story. I'm going to go back to LinkedIn. I want to give you an example. Okay, here we go. We're going to go back here. Hopefully I can find somebody really quick. Military spouse, this, we're looking at her profile right now. Jamie, great suggestion. We're going to go down to her about section. And as you can see, her about section is not very long, but she has her areas of expertise, which is also keyword searchable. Let's look at one more. Hopefully she populates for me. Right, first connections. Nope, I messed it up. What does Nadia have for hers? We'll do Nadia's. Okay, not bad. A little wordy, but she's not here to go against me anymore. But I do like areas of expertise. I like roles and impact. So this is actually really good. I like that she has some quantifiable data in here as well. So we have here with 20% and another one here with 30%. So this is actually a really good about section and something that you could mimic as you're putting that together. With your experience, again, numbers, accomplishments, outcomes, you'll have a different section for your volunteerism. You're going to want to have about 50 skills that individuals can be endorsed. You're going to want to get recommendations from other professionals that you know. Recommendations, while they may not always get looked at by a recruiter, they're better than a reference. Because a recommendation could be somebody that you may not reach out to be a reference as you're applying for a job. But at the same time, they took the time out of their busy schedule to write something nice about what it is that you have done. In a perfect world, you're going to have over 200 connections, ideally 500. And then you also really want to engage on the platform. This is extremely important that you have high engagement, you're active, you're able to be found. With that said, I think this is my last slide on LinkedIn. If I go to my YouTube page and just simply search Scott Rather. We have my page right here. Don't have a lot of subscribers yet, but that doesn't matter. I have a workshop that is broken down into 2 parts. And what's awesome about this workshop, as you can see here, Nadia is populating, is that I have other career coaches, resume writers, recruiters joining me to talk about best practices for LinkedIn. In total, it's a 4-hour workshop. So if you really want to do a deep dive on the platform, you can watch those videos. Just search for Scott Rather. All right. Moving on. This is, which I've already showed you, if you have a premium account versus the standard account. With the premium account, you can actually see how many people have applied for the job. And with a standard account, you only see how many people have viewed the announcement. With premium, you can see who has posted the job announcement, and with standard, you can't see it. And this is just kind of an overview, as if I were to want to apply for this job at Lyft, how I would send a message to the recruiter who posted that opportunity. And as you can see here, this can increase your chances 11 times. the difference in jobs that you might see on LinkedIn. So if we go look at jobs, and let me show you in real time. Oops. Go back to this, we're gonna go back to jobs. There are two types of positions that you're going to see advertised on LinkedIn. The first one is going to be easy apply, and then this one here is a regular position. Companies are spending more money to make their jobs easy apply. So if I open up this one, when I apply for this opportunity, I do not leave the LinkedIn platform. I stay in it. A lot of times when it is easy apply and you have premium, I can see the recruiter that posted that job opportunity. So what I would do is I would go through the announcement. I would make sure that I have tailored my resume to match up to the job specifically. I would then apply for it, and it's going to ask for all these demographics. And then once I've applied for it, I am then going to reach out to the recruiter that posted this opportunity. So I'm going to actually open her profile in a different page. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to try to find some sort of a commonality. A lot of times when I'm reaching out to a recruiter, I look at their activity just as much as a recruiter might look at our activity. So as I can see here, she hasn't posted anything in 7 months. So how active is she actually on this platform? It doesn't seem like she's very active. So then what I might do is instead go to the company page. I'm going to 100% reach out to her. But do I expect anything in return? Maybe, maybe not. So then instead, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to all the people that are on LinkedIn that work for that organization. And then from there, I can start to use my filters to precisely navigate who I might want to reach out to in addition to her to become a referral. As Nadia had mentioned, we need to take a strategic approach to pursuing job opportunities and not necessarily spray and pray as we apply for positions. It's not going to get you anywhere. You're better to apply for less jobs than more jobs and take the time to do a deeper dive into connecting with individuals that work at the organization that you're applying to, so that way you can become a referral. With that said, when you do the easy apply, companies can see your name, they see your headline, they see your current job description, but they only see your past job titles without the description. They get to see your education, they see your recommendations, and as we can see here, 90% of all profiles on LinkedIn have no recommendations at all. This is why it's vitally important for you to get recommendations. And then they also see how to reach out and contact you. I'm not saying that for every job you apply for, you need to update and tailor your LinkedIn profile to match up to the positions that you're pursuing. What I am suggesting, though, is that if you're looking at a job announcement and you see something that is critical that might not be in your profile right now, that you go ahead and you make adjustments and additions to your profile to align with these different job industries that you might be pursuing, so that it creates a better synopsis of what it is that you have to offer in your LinkedIn profile that may not be in your resume. So recruiters look at your LinkedIn profile as an opportunity to get more information about who you are that might not be covered in the 2-page resume. So please take the time and initiative to work this one out as you need to.
Hey,
That-
Scott, can I
Absolutely.
offer
Please,
item on the recommendations? I had no recommendations, and I've had my LinkedIn account for like since its genesis. And one of my mentors was like, you have to get one of your past employers, even, I mean, and I put air quotes on that, employers, even if it was a volunteer role, to write you a recommendation. And people are always like, let me know if I can do anything to help, or, I'm sure no one's going to pass you up, right? They always want to give you high praise. This is a way that you can roll it back and say, actually, could you go to LinkedIn and give me a recommendation? That would be a huge help. I've asked for 3, I've gotten 1. So you gotta put it out there and ask several people, and you might even have to give them instructions on like, go to the page, depending on how old they are or their tech savviness. Go to the page, go to this button, click on this, you got to make sure that you're logged in under your profile, all those things, and then get them to write you a recommendation. So that's just something from my mentor.
I totally agree. And you know what else? Give recommendations. I think a lot of times when you give a recommendation, you're sort of paying it forward. So if there's people that you have worked well with in the past, or somebody who is a friend and they're looking for a job, give them a recommendation. Because a lot of times what they'll do is, you scratch their back, they'll scratch yours. And a lot of times recruiters aren't going to be like, wait a minute, you gave them a recommendation, then a day later they gave you a recommendation. Well, that doesn't suffice, right? So I would definitely recommend giving recommendations as much as getting recommendations. And the other thing is, when you give a recommendation, your profile is now also on their page as well. I call that product placement, and you are a product. So thank you for that, Glenda. I appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions or concerns as it relates to building a profile? I think silence is a virtue. All right, here we go. The interview process. Good one. Yes, I do use ChatGPT or OpenAI to help me with content and help me with engagement. So embrace it. Embrace OpenAI, but also use it in a way to help you brainstorm, but at the same time, change it into your verbiage so that it's you speaking and not a bot speaking. But yes, absolutely. I love ChatGPT as well. And I have some amazing insights on how to use the platform as it relates to your job search. All right.
One quick question, Scott.
Yeah.
I don't know if other people have run into this, but a lot of times people say, oh, just write it up and send it to me. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm okay with it. A lot of times, like Glenda was saying, if you reach out to a person and say, hey, do you mind writing a recommendation for me on LinkedIn? I would probably give them like a couple of things to feed off of. Do you remember that project that we worked on? Or, kind of lay it out for them so that way they have an outline of what it is that maybe you want them to speak about, but then also give them the flexibility to put it in their own words. But yeah, I think by making it easier for them to provide you with that recommendation is going to help them decide to actually do it versus starting from scratch and having to think about what am I going to say. Pretty good.
Yes, thank you.
So you've gone through this entire process, you've changed your resume, you're tailoring your resume to match up to the job opportunities. You've updated your LinkedIn profile. The companies are intrigued in who you are, and they've reached a point where they want to bring you in for an interview, or they want to do an interview virtually. And I will try to cover both of them, even though more and more companies are now going back to more of the in-person version of an interview. There are probably moments where you might be applying for a remote job where it would be done virtually like this. So I'm going to try to cover both of them. The first thing that we're going to look at, obviously, is before the interview. And before the interview, we absolutely want to make sure that we research the company. We want to go to their Facebook page, their YouTube page, their LinkedIn page, even check out Glassdoor. We want to find out about the company's culture, what their mission is about, the industry that they're supporting. By learning all of this, so like on Glassdoor and YouTube, you're probably going to get a good idea of the social aspect of the organization. On LinkedIn, you'll get a little bit more of the professional side of what it is that they're doing. And it's advantageous for us to know both sides of it. So that way we can align as we're having the conversation with the person who might be interviewing us, to show that we have done the research. They love to know that we have looked into their organization and we're excited about working for them. With Glassdoor, if you haven't looked at that, you can often get a listing of the questions that have been asked to other individuals that have interviewed at that company. So that might give us some insight as well as to what questions we might want to expect from them. We also, by looking at their social media and seeing the pictures that they have, maybe during a company outing or a company setting, something more in the office and not out in the community, is how they dress. This is going to tell us their dress code. And when we decide how we're going to dress going into the interview, we always want to go one step up. So if they're total kind of business casual, then we want to go a little bit more business formal. But by looking at those pictures on social media, we'll get an idea of how they present themselves in the workspace. We also want to look at potential questions. And this is actually a way where ChatGPT could come into play. You can literally copy the vacancy announcement and then ask ChatGPT, what questions would I expect at an interview? And it will give you a list of them. Another thing that you might want to do is just plain old Google search behavioral based interview questions at an interview. And it'll give you a list again. Tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult coworker. Tell me about a time when you disagreed with your boss. Tell me about a time when you supported somebody in customer service. So it'll give you a list of those. What I want you to do is come up with at least 5 or 6 different stories that would resonate with any variation of those types of questions that they might ask you, that you can kind of pull out of your hat. Like, oh, this story aligns with this question. If you're ever asked a negative style question, tell me about a time when you had a disagreement with your boss. I always want you to be able to spin it into a positive. What was the positive outcome of a disagreement? Or what is your biggest flaw or your biggest weakness? Even though you're going to tell them your biggest weakness, how have you turned that into a positive? So everything needs to end on a positive if all possible. And the best way to figure that out is by practicing. Obviously, determine the location. It's easy for us to put it in our GPS. However, I would probably say go the time of day where the interview is. So if the interview is at rush hour, we don't know how necessarily bad the traffic is going to be unless we do a reconnaissance. And maybe we drive out there the day before to figure out how bad is traffic going to be. Is there construction? I know a lot of times in GPS, it's going to tell us that there's construction issues, but I would rather know the day before than the day I'm driving to the interview. Because we want to minimize our stressors, right? And if we can expect our stressors beforehand, that'll decrease it. Whereas we're driving and all of a sudden, Google Maps or something says you need to divert this way. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, now I don't know where I'm going. Your stress is going to automatically increase when you already have stress anyway. It's just going to force multiply the aspect of it. And then also prepare for questions to ask. Again, with ChatGPT, you can upload the job announcement and you can ask ChatGPT, what questions should I ask based off of this job announcement at the interview? And it'll give you a list of questions to ask. Ideally, when you're at the interview, which kind of gets us to the next stage, is we want to make sure that we're solving their problem. So how can you find a way, either before the interview or during the interview, to figure out what problems are they having in the position that they're trying to fill, or with the organization in general, and how are you the solution to that problem? And then incorporate that into the conversation of the interview. The interview is supposed to be a conversation, not an interrogation, where they're asking you questions and you're answering the questions. And then at the very end, they say, do you have any questions for us? Ideally, you want to ask questions while the interview is happening, so that way it turns into that conversation. In a perfect world, you arrive 15 to 20 minutes early, so that way you can compose yourself. You can make sure, you look in the mirror, whether you stop at a restaurant or a gas station, go into the restroom, make sure that everything is proper. And then keep in mind that the interview starts as soon as you leave your car. You don't know who you're going to pass and say hi to. You don't know what the receptionist is looking at as you come into the interview. You don't know if the person who interviews you is then going to ask the receptionist, how were you acting while you were waiting for them? So the interview is constantly going when you arrive. So that's why you want to be obviously friendly to everybody. You want to make it a conversation. You are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. You want to make sure that this organization is a great fit for you just as much as they're trying to make you a great fit for them. That's why you need to be inquisitive. That first impression is a lasting impression. And it's something that you really need to take into account as you're going through this entire process. After the interview, whether it's good or bad, you hate them, you want to work for them, you want to make sure that you're cordial. Leave with a positive impression, even though in the back of your mind, you might be like, wow, I don't really think this is the right opportunity for me. You don't know, maybe down the road, there's a better opportunity for you. So you always want to make sure that you leave on a good note. And that is even confidently leaving on a good note. Remain relaxed. And then as far as follow-up goes, typically speaking, these days, we're typically following up via email. However, if you're really talking to somebody that you feel like is bubbly, they're type B, they're outgoing, maybe for that individual, you decide to send them a thank you card. Something that is intangible, something for them to hold, something that is handwritten, something that comes from the heart, right? The idea of the follow-up is that you're putting your name in their mind one last time before they make a decision on who they want to hire. So they might interview you, they've interviewed 2 other people, and then all of a sudden they get a thank you note from you, and all of a sudden you're back into the forefront of their mind. It literally can make a difference in the process. And then finally, be patient. I highly recommend following up, being assertive, and being proactive. But at the same time, we have to realize that the decision-making process could take a while. So we have to be patient and we don't want to be annoying. Any comments for those that have been through this on any type of advice that you might give as it relates to interviewing? Okay, we'll keep pressing forward. So as I mentioned, that follow-up and thank you letter, it's often overlooked. And it's a way to show that you're genuinely interested in the opportunity. Again, you need to make a decision. Are you going to handwrite something out or are you going to send an email? Handwritten, it probably isn't going to be too long. It's probably going to be on a thank you card. But either way, if you're going to do it electronically or snail mail, I want you to put what you either loved about this job or what you loved about the company. If you decide to go with the letter, if there was something that happened during the interview that you wish you would have elaborated on a little bit more that you forgot about, you can address that in the interview. During the interview, you asked me about this, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more, and I wish I would have said that. Okay. But obviously, if it's handwritten, you really don't have that opportunity to do it. Ideally, we're going to do this within 24 hours of the interview. So that way, once again, your name is going in their mind one more time. And this literally could be the difference between them selecting somebody else and yourself because you have taken this initiative. Any thoughts on a cover letter? Perfect. All right. Networking. I mentioned this from the very beginning. We need to go to networking events and job fairs. Going to a job fair doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a job. Look at a job fair as a networking event. It's a way for you to meet other individuals to help you get to where you need to go. So that's the approach that we're taking. When you go to a job fair, don't be offended if they don't take your resume. There are a lot of reasons why. They want to get you in your applicant tracking system, so they want you to apply online. They don't want to be accused of discrimination, so they want you to apply online. So whenever you go to any of these events, look at them as a chance to meet people and not find employment. Once you've done that, if employment comes from it, awesome, amazing. But other than that, this is a chance to talk to individuals. Again, a little bit like an interview. I want you to pick the top 5 companies that you really want to talk to. But don't go talk to them at the very beginning. I want you to get comfortable. So go talk to some companies that you're somewhat interested in, so you can kind of shake off the nerves. So that way, when you go to talk to those top 5 companies, you are comfortable with what you want to say to them. And then do the research on those top 5 companies as well. So that way, when you approach them, you're not just talking about their job opportunities, you're talking to them about how you know about what their company dynamic is about. So during the event, I want you to do a quick walk around, a reconnaissance, so to speak. Really try to figure out where my top 5 companies. Are they right next to each other? Do I need to kind of walk around a little bit and then come back to one company to the other to the other? We need to make sure that we dress appropriately, but I want you to dress comfortably because you're going to be nervous. There's going to be a lot of people. It's going to be hot. It's going to be warm. So we need to dress comfortable, but professional. And sometimes when we're all suited up and we're not used to wearing what we typically wear, that even creates more of a barrier and more stressors. So I want you to dress comfortable but appropriate. Make sure that you're asking great questions instead of going up to them and saying, what types of jobs do you have available? Tell me about yourself. They're more intrigued when you have something insightful to ask them that's going to grab their attention and be like, wow, this person really did do research on us. And then finally, at the interview, avoid grabbing the goodies. If there's something really cool that you want after you're done talking to everybody else, then go back and grab the goodie. But this is not trick-or-treating for adults. This is your opportunity to talk to individuals, learn about job opportunities, and then on the backside, if there's anything cool, then go pick it up. As you're leaving the venue, go back, hey, I had a great conversation with you. I noticed you had this stress ball. I'd really love to have it. Do you mind if I take this home with me? Of course, they're going to say yes. And then after the networking event or job fair, you're going to want to make sure that you follow up with them on LinkedIn. Express when you talk to them, give them an idea of what you talked about. So that way you're not just one of the regular people that have asked the random generic questions. Make sure that you tell them about how you stand out. And then follow it up with, could we have some sort of an informational type interview? How can we carry on this conversation to determine how I'm the best fit for your company? So this is how you're going to attend either a networking event or a job fair. Any questions? I have 2 minutes left. And I told you we'd go 4 hours. And I appreciate the 7 people that are still with me. Ready? Okay. A couple of things. Salary. With salary, payscale.com is going to ask you a series of questions based off of your experience, your education, how many people you supervise, your certifications, and then it's going to give you a salary range of what you're worth. When an organization asks you about what your salary requirements are, you want to talk in a range of about $10,000 with the idea that eventually you're going to meet in the middle. It costs companies a lot of money to hire, onboard, and put people into jobs. In my mind, they're not going to lowball us because they want to save a few $1,000s. They don't want you to leave because you found a better opportunity 3 months down the road, and then now they're spending money re-advertising that job. But you still need to find out what your net worth is. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different if it's related to remote work, if there's maybe advancement potential, benefits, all those different times need to come into play as it relates to salary. But you have to do your due diligence. Payscale.com or salary.com will be what you want to look at to figure out what is your worth in the area that you're going to be living in and the labor market. Any questions on that? Jamie, good point. Yeah, I would probably say, if at all possible, you're not gonna be sending out a lot of thank you notes. So to go get, like, go to Walgreens and buy a stock of thank you cards that are extremely generic, it's not gonna benefit you. But if it's personalized to the individual that you're sending it to, then absolutely that's gonna weigh a better benefit than something that is sort of an old-fashioned personalized thank you letter. I agree with that. Oh, look at that. It is 2:01. I went 1 minute over what I was supposed to go over. And we are all done. Do you all have any questions for me at all? Are we pretty good? Thank you, and it's great seeing you again. I know we connected a while back, so I'm so happy that you logged in and talked to us. With that said, obviously, the workshop is over. But if you have any questions for me, please let me know. And then one other thing in the chat box. I'm not sure where it's at, but you should be able to save the chat. I think if you click the box, it has OneDrive, Google Drive, SharePoint, or your computer. I think that's where you could save the chat if you need to go back and find the resources. Of course, please feel free to reach out to me because obviously I have recorded this. And if you need to rewatch it or you want to go through the chat as well to get to the resources that we talked about, just send me a message on LinkedIn and I will share this with you. If we don't have any other questions, you are free to log off and have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. And keep in mind that I am here for you as much as I possibly can. Thank you,
Thank you,
Jamie.
Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Everybody, connect with everybody, please.